So, yeah, it's really good to be together today. Thank you for joining us. Just to give you a little overview of our time today, we're going to do a short arrival practice, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Then we're going to have a little check in. I'm going to offer a talk, and then we're going to have a nice long meditation that's going to incorporate a little bit about what we talked about. And then at the end, a little bit of time for sharing. So, yeah, let's just do a quick arrival practice. This is not like a big formal meditation, but we'll just take 2 or 3 minutes to kind of arrive and connect with the group. Just inviting a few deeper breaths with the out breath being longer than the in breath, kind of signaling to our nervous system that at least for this short time we have together, everything is okay in this moment, right? Nowhere to go, nothing to do. We're just going to bring our attention down into our bodies. You might notice the feeling of your weight on the chair or whatever surface you're sitting on. You might bring your attention to the contact with the ground or whatever your feet are on. And then maybe just a little grounding cycle of noticing your feet, noticing your seat in the chair or the cushion, and then just noticing your hands, maybe what your hands are resting on or any sensations in the hands. Noticing the feet, noticing your seat, the hands. And one more grounding cycle, bringing your attention to your feet, to your seat, and to your hands. And then before we close our arrival practice, I invite you to just think to yourself for a moment, what brought you here? What brought you here? We're not going to share this with the group. It's just for your own insight. What brought you here today? And then maybe asking again, what brought me here today? See if a different answer arises, maybe a deeper answer. And I'm just going to ring a bell to close our little arrival practice. And if you had your eyes closed, you're welcome to open them up again. Yeah, so just for a short moment, for most of the time we're together, Andy, could you put us on gallery just for a moment? You're welcome to have your camera off if that's most comfortable for you all. But just for a moment, if you're comfortable coming on camera just for a little check-in, I would really love to know, just by a show of hands, how many folks are in the LA area today, just like your physical hand, like in the LA area, Southern California area? Yeah, okay, I recognize a few people. Yeah, so maybe half-ish. Okay, yeah. And if you don't live in LA, how many of you have ties to LA with friends, family here in Southern California? Yeah, okay, great. So yeah, if you want to stay on camera, that's great. I just wanted to kind of do a quick show of hands. Thank you. You're welcome to go off. So I also just want to acknowledge that, if you're in another part of the country or the world, which we often get, folks from all over, which is great, it's often hard to be far away too, right? Because you're really struggling with kind of getting a grip on what's happening in a disaster. So people who are not here in LA, we know you're probably struggling watching the news and trying to figure out what's real and what's happening. So we'll just do a quick little check-in here. If you could put two words into the chat that sort of describe how you're feeling right now. So for me, it might be on edge and hopeful, right? It can be a couple of things. Overwhelmed, lucky, sad, fatigued, cautious and open, sad but grounded, happy, disoriented, overwhelmed, fear, so sad and edgy, positive, tired, heaviness, sad and grateful. Yes, thank you. Worried and grateful, stunned and sad, hopeful and grateful. Yeah. So if I missed reading yours because it went by too quickly, I apologize. But yeah, we can kind of just get a sense for what's happening in the room. And yeah, we're getting a lot of kind of both and, right? Prepared and hopeful. Yeah. And so just one more little check in with the chat, for any of those emotional states that you shared that might need a little attention, I'd love you to share with the group one thing, and it can be super small. This is not something big. One thing that you turn to for support that really soothes your nervous system. So for me, it can be time with my purring cat, or sometimes a butterfly hug. So talking with friends, for sure. Being with family, sleep, meditation, watching Mr. Rogers, soup, connecting with ancestors, connecting with our spiritual community, time with my toddler, breathing, stillness, meditation and a cup of tea, a snuggle with my son, warmth, trees, hot chocolate, soup, and friends, being with friends. Yeah. Babies, walking. Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your go-to things that are helpful. Nature, attention to the natural world, for sure. Yeah. So I want to just start out our conversation here a little bit by kind of zooming out that, obviously over the last couple of years, we've had in our country, around the world, a lot of big events that have mounted a stress response from our nervous systems, right? And with the fires in LA, kind of the scale and the scariness is absolutely a lot for our nervous systems to handle. And many of us feel stress and anxiety, even if we're not directly affected, because there is, a lot of uncertainty about what's coming after losing 60 square miles of homes and schools and churches and businesses. So stress and worry is actually an appropriate response, right? So it's often said that good mental health is not about feeling good all the time. It's about one, having feelings that fit what's happening, and two, handling those feelings well. So having feelings that fit what's happening and handling those feelings well. That's from Dr. Damore, Lisa Damore. So yeah, so feeling stressed, overwhelmed, grief, all the things that we named, shut down, worried, how our body and mind respond to stressful events, it looks different for every person. And we could just see it in our little tiny survey here. So maybe you go into volunteering overdrive, right? But your roommate or your partner is shut down and cocooning, right? Or you go from seeing joy in all the kind acts that we're seeing back to being irritable, irritability right away. And sometimes we don't know why. So, our minds want control, clarity, and certainty. That's from Gabor Mate. Our minds want control, clarity, and certainty. And when we don't have some or all of those, we get these expressions of dysregulation. So when there's a big event like this one, all these various expressions of stress, the stress response, they actually are appropriate. They do fit what's happening. Something big has happened, so they fit what's happening. And part two of that is that our practices still can help us handle these feelings well. So all that to say that we are exactly where we need to be here together in community, and being reminded of our inner resources that we know, these are things we already know can help us handle our feelings well. But we tend to forget about it when we're highly activated. So we can also give ourselves a sense of kind of normalizing whatever's here. So today I wanted to just review three things to kind of help tap our inner resources. And for many of you, especially in this group, I'm hoping these are things you're actually already pretty familiar with, but we're going to kind of bring them up to the surface and revisit them now. So they're going to be fresh as you move through this week ahead. So we often say that, it's easy to be mindful, but it's difficult to remember to be mindful, right? So right now, it's more important than ever, this remembering to be mindful. And specifically, it's important because we are going to be moving in and out of our window of tolerance more frequently. So what is our window of tolerance? I'm actually going to share a little graphic here. I'm pretty sure many of you have seen this graphic before or something similar. Can you all see that? Yeah, okay, great. So the green obviously is kind of our optimal operating system, right? On a normal week, we probably stay here more or less in our window of tolerance, meaning we can respond to events throughout the day from a place of groundedness, openness, and most importantly, emotional regulation. So right now, many of us in LA and even out of LA, yeah, we're not in our normal rhythm, right? And I know that I'm here, I live in LA. I'm still on fire watch with these high winds. I'm consuming more sensational news than I normally do. I'm seeing images of suffering. I'm hearing of people being mean with looting and all these terrible things, the collective stress. So, yeah, we have all this stimuli coming in, extra stimuli coming in that we're not used to. And that means that we more easily, and more importantly, it's kind of unknowingly, we more frequently unknowingly shift out of our window of tolerance, our preferred state. And we inadvertently move into hyperarousal or hypoarousal. Andy and I were just talking about this before we started, like, oh, yeah, just taking a look at this chart, which many of you've probably seen before. It's helpful to kind of name this, right? And without a practice of self-awareness or time carved out for self-reflection, we're a lot less aware of being in these states, kind of being out of our comfort zone. So that's one of the things that we're doing here. We are wanting to notice when we're out of our window of tolerance. And to do that, it takes a little bit of awareness. And luckily, it's just basic mindfulness that everyone here is, I'm pretty sure, familiar with, right? That definition of paying attention to the present moment with openness and curiosity and a willingness to be with what is. That basic definition. So when the what is us being in this red zone or this blue zone, it's kind of like, whoa, yeah, what is that I am out of my kind of preferred operating system. So I'm just going to stop this share for right now. So what can I do to kind of regain my emotional regulation and nervous system regulation right now before I start kind of moving through the world from an unhealthy emotional state? And that, of course, is making things worse for ourselves and for others. So the bottom line here with this little chart is just reminding us that when things are the way they are, right, when we're dealing with a big natural disaster, we're going to be getting a lot more triggers, right? A lot more hooks, a lot more opportunities to be kind of pulled out of our window of tolerance. So the first reminder today, it seems so basic, but sometimes it's helpful to see this chart, is simply using mindfulness to be aware of the times that we've slipped out of our window of tolerance and kind of name it. Yeah, okay, I see this. And so now you've recognized it, right? You've recognized that you're dysregulated. What can you do? So first, you can intentionally do any of those intuitive things that we offered each other at the start of the session. Intentionally do them. That's any activity that disrupts the story, right? The story of future tripping or ruminating from the past. So it's anything that brings you into the present, even just for a moment. So being in nature, meditating, breath work, time with your pets, time with children. I've been using a lot of essential oils, just a big inhale of essential oils. So it's really, Joseph Goldstein says, it's doing something and knowing that you're doing something, right? That's mental presence. It's like the matching of thought to action, mental presence. So one thing we can do is simply any of these things that we recognize can help us when we're dysregulated, being aware of when we're out of our window of tolerance and using our top things that we just kind of crowdsourced to pull us out of this future thinking and past thinking and back into the present moment. So that's one thing. And then two more things, which hopefully I think many of you will be familiar with. So I'm hoping this is a little bit of a refresher, is that we have two more tried and true 2,600-year-old road tested practices that can really help us get back into our window of tolerance, back to emotional and nervous system regulation. And many of you know these, right? They are self-compassion and compassion for others. And these two practices are absolutely built for this moment. What's cool is, and sometimes we kind of forget about this, is that they can both be done formally, formal mindfulness, like a sitting meditation, and they can be done informally, meaning, on the fly, in your car, in line at the grocery store, or really any kind of aha moment where you've recognized, I'm slipping out of my window of tolerance, right? My nervous system or my emotional regulation is slipping out. So for the first practice, the practice of self-compassion, I'm just going to quickly review the self-compassion break that was developed by researcher and meditation teacher, Dr. Kristen Neff. And at the end, I'll put a link in the chat to her website, Self-Compassion. It's self-compassion.org, which has amazing resources on here and the science behind why this practice works. But I'm just going to really quickly give you like a day-to-day scenario because the way the self-compassion break works is that it helps to increase our capacity to metabolize our own difficult emotions so that we can work with them skillfully rather than stuffing them down or just being totally overwhelmed by them, right? So we can allow them to be there and at the same time stay connected to experiencing them almost like an observer of them and holding ourselves with compassion and staying grounded. So I have this image in my head sometimes when I'm doing this of sort of holding the grief or holding the worry in a giant container or like a basket of like love, compassion, strength, and groundedness, so that the difficult emotions are allowed to be present. And at the same time, they're held by or surrounded with groundedness. So Dr. Kristen Neff teaches this quick self-compassion break. And it's 3 steps. And ideally, you have them kind of in your mind. So they're like a tool that's in your back pocket. right? And the three steps are mindfulness, the common humanity of our experience, and then kind self-talk or soothing touch. So just to give you a quick example, I'm going to use an example that's not about the fires. So it's just sort of easy to uptake. Um, a way that this practice can be used in your daily life. This is not something that you just read in an article like Mindful Magazine or something and forget about. This is an actual tool that many people use on the fly to help process emotions and get ourselves back into our window of tolerance. So, one example that I remember from about 3 years ago that helped me so much was dropping my daughter off at college, the big emotional buildup, 18 years, leading up to that. And it was in New York City. So dropping your kid off in New York City, college looks like just putting them in an Uber and they go to their dorm. So after this big built up, I dropped my daughter off. I get in the hotel, I go up to my room. And yeah, I'm a little bit too activated to kind of sit down and do a formal meditation to process the emotions. So I did this quick self compassion break. And what it looks like is step one is mindfulness. Just it sounds so simple, but it's really recognizing the emotions that are present and how they show up in your body, right? So I'm kind of shaky. I'm feeling knots in my stomach from worry. I'm emotionally exhausted. Yeah, this hurts. Like this is painful, right? Parenting feels like heartache right now. And so, whatever's there, you're actually letting it be there instead of stuffing it down or immediately going out for drinks with the other parents. It's just simple mindfulness, paying attention to the present moment with openness and curiosity and a willingness to be with what is. And in that moment, yeah, this hurts. Step two, super simple. It's just recognizing the common humanity of your experience. There's very few things that we can experience in life that no one has ever experienced before us, right? So I'm in this hotel room looking out over New York City. Yeah, hundreds of parents are dropping their kids off right now in New York City and all over the country, feeling this same thing. I'm not alone. And that kind of fights the tendency to feel isolated when we're suffering. And then step three, which is sort of the secret sauce, Dr. Neff's research has shown that when we use kind self talk and comforting touch to ourselves, our body cannot tell the difference between kind words from a friend or a loved one comforting us or kind words to ourselves. And same with the kind self touch. Our body can't tell the difference between like a friend putting an arm around us or patting our back or comforting us physically. Um, Whether we're doing it for ourselves or a person is helping us do that, it works to crank down that production of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline and increase our production of our own feel good hormones, oxytocin. So that step three for that little scenario was, yeah, just offering kind words to myself, rubbing my chest, looking out the window. This hurts. You're doing a great job supporting your daughter right now. This kind of pain is normal. It's okay to be sad and joyful right now. And just the heartache will pass. So the words don't really matter. It's the tone, right? You're speaking to yourself the way you would comfort a close friend. So that is the self compassion break. It is so powerful. It's so cool and so easy. And it has science behind how it works. And I really encourage you, if you haven't actually like road tested this practice, I really encourage you to practice it and have it in your back pocket for times that you are noticing that you're coming out of your window of tolerance. So I'm going to just quickly put a little thing in the chat before I forget for you to have. It's a link to her website and it's a meditation, 10 minute of the mindful self-compassion break. So you can have that later. Okay, let me just look at the time. Perfect timing. So the final thing I wanted to either kind of share with you, or hopefully for most of you, it's more of reminding you, is the other practice that we're going to do in our meditation today is this practice of compassion for others. Compassion for others. And as many of you know, compassion practice is your kind heart, the kindness in your heart, meeting someone else's suffering with a desire to end their suffering, right? So, compassion practice is the kindness in your heart, meeting someone else's suffering with a desire to end their suffering. And many of you are familiar with this practice. And if you're not, it's super easy to follow along. You'll be simply repeating some phrases in your own mind after I say them out loud. And before we start, I just want to kind of share a little bit the why this kind of compassion practice is helpful right now. So it's sort of looking under the hood, the mechanics of why this is helpful. Compassion practice is a way of keeping our heart open so we're not shut down or overwhelmed as we come in contact with the pain of others, which we're seeing a lot of right now, right? And this is important because our normal way of experiencing the suffering of others, it really can leave us feeling overwhelmed, right? I'm sure many of us have felt that over this last week just watching the news. So we normally kind of feel overwhelmed. We kind of get stuck in the enormity of the suffering of other people. So compassion practice, we feel the grief and sadness for others, but we don't lose touch with our own groundedness, right? So we stay close, observing our own experience. What does overwhelm feel like? And each of us feel it differently. Like I feel a lightness in my chest or a flightiness or whatever, we all feel it differently. But what does overwhelm feel like? And what does groundedness feel like? Are we feeling one or the other? And if so, we can intentionally kind of pendulate our attention back and forth from something comforting or neutral, thinking of it as a refuge, right? And for some of us, a refuge might be focusing on the breath. For another person, a refuge might be sensations in your hands, noticing your hands. The hands are frequently like a really nice neutral place to move your attention if you're feeling overwhelmed. So we know our refuge, maybe the breath, maybe the hands, whatever brings you a sense of grounding. And then we can kind of move back and forth from our refuge and then caring for the suffering of others. And this works in meditation, but also in daily life, right? When we're physically caring for others, we can kind of pendulate our attention, our mental attention or our physical attention to stay grounded and connected to our own experience. So the bottom line here with the compassion practice is that compassion practice for others helps us metabolize the suffering of other people. And this is how this 2,600-year-old practice makes us more resilient and better able to be of service to others, right? Because it helps us stay grounded in our own strength, in our own window of tolerance, so we can really offer love in action. Yeah, so it's kind of the under the hood on the self-compassion and compassion practices. And before we start, I just wanted to share, I noticed on the website of one of the meditation centers I follow, they had instructions that said, if you're new to compassion practice, just repeat these phrases and see how you feel afterwards. That's it. That's instructions. That's really all we need, right? So in a moment, we're going to shift to a meditation, and we're going to start off with a focused awareness meditation. We're going to use an object of focus. And then at the end, we're going to shift to a compassion practice, and I will guide you through it. And it's really important that, of course, at any time, if coming in contact with your own suffering or the suffering of others kind of becomes too much, move your attention away from those thoughts. Do that pendulating process that we talked about, right? Move your attention away and move it towards one of your refuges. If it's still too much, you can open your eyes, become oriented in the room, You can rub your chest, offer yourself a hug. And of course, if it's still too much, you can get up and walk outside, So always encourage you to take care of yourself, always, but especially when we're doing compassion practices. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say about the practices. I'll invite you to go ahead and find a position that is comfortable for a meditation. And if you wish to, I invite you to close your eyes if it's comfortable. If not, you're welcome to leave them kind of in a low gaze in front of you. And if you need to lie down or stand up, whatever you need to do, please do that. Otherwise, it can be helpful to take kind of a relaxed but dignified seated posture. So your body is relaxed, but you have sort of an active spine, just helps so you don't become sleepy. And we'll start with a few deeper breaths, maybe just 3 or 4 deeper breaths. And the only objective here is just trying to make the out breath longer than the in breath. If you have trouble making that out breath longer, you can pretend that you're blowing out of a tiny little straw, and it helps to kind of elongate the out breath. And that long out breath is simply sending a signal to our nervous system that, at least in this moment, right now, we're okay. Right? We're just sending that signal to our nervous system. Right now, we're okay. So I invite you to bring your attention to the face, inviting a little bit of softening to the forehead, noticing the little tiny muscles around the eyes, maybe inviting a little softening there. They get tight from smiling and squinting. Bringing your attention down to your jaw, just letting the jaw kind of drop and relax. Letting go the little muscles back by the temples. And then our last kind of organized breath, where we're going to draw out the out breath. See if it's possible to imagine dropping your shoulders down and away from your ears as you do that long out breath. Just imagining any tension in the shoulders, literally rolling off your shoulders onto the floor like water off of a duck's back. And then letting your breath return to its normal rhythm, not controlling it in any way, but bringing your attention down from the shoulders to the front of the body, to the heart space. Checking into the heart space, whatever's there is okay. Just noticing the heart space. See if you can invite a little opening, maybe even a physical opening by drawing your shoulder blades together in the back, just like 1 centimeter or less, opening the heart space. And then drawing the attention down the front of the body to the belly, softening the belly. This is a place where we really hold a lot of worry and fear. And all day long, we're kind of sucking it in and tightening the core and all that stuff. So right now, it's really just the opposite of that. Just soften the belly, the top of the belly, the sides, the bottom, letting those muscles relax. And then dropping your attention from the belly down to the legs, all the way down to the feet. And just simply noticing the contact point of the feet touching the ground, whatever they're resting on. And then drawing your attention back up to your seat in the chair or on the cushion. Just noticing that sense of gravity kind of gently holding you in the chair. You know, it's easy to lift your hand if you wanted to, but otherwise, the gravity is just kind of like a gentle hug, holding us connected to the earth, a sense of groundedness. Then noticing that contact point of your seat with the chair. And then just continuing that grounding sequence of feet, seat, and noticing your hands. What can be known about your hands? What sensations can you feel? Noticing the feet touching the ground, noticing the seat in the chair, and noticing the hands. Just the direct experience of hands. If you wish to feel the circulatory system in the hands, you can often notice it at the top or the bottom of a breath when the diaphragm's not moving. Check it out. See if you can feel any pulsing or tingling in the hands in between the breaths. And if your attention wanders from what we're doing, you are not doing it wrong. This is normal. You just simply notice that the attention has wandered off the focus, and you might say to yourself, begin again, begin again. And now I will invite us to move our attention off the grounding sequence of the body and just rest our attention on a meditation anchor or a focus. I'm going to use the breath as a cue, but if that is not something that feels right for you right now, you can use a wisdom word that you repeat. It might be, you can use sound as an anchor, or the felt sense of groundedness that we were using before. We're really just looking to kind of fill our awareness with an object of focus. And so if you're using the breath, just simply noticing where that experience of breath is most predominant. Maybe at the nostrils, maybe you feel the air going down the back of the throat. Maybe you feel the rise and fall of the chest, or the expanding and contracting belly. Simply using the breath or another anchor as an object of our attention. And when our attention wanders, we're not doing it wrong. You just simply invite the attention back, maybe with the phrase, begin again. I'm aware of the in breath. I'm aware of the out breath. If you seem to have a busier mind than normal right now, which might be expected, you might offer some guardrails for the attention with a little bit of counting the breath. So in one, out two, in three, out four, just looking to get to 10. It's actually quite difficult even to get to 10 because our attention naturally wanders off the mark. Noticing if your attention may have wandered off of your object of focus, the breath, and just have some grace with yourself. You're not doing it wrong. This is normal. In fact, it's almost like a smile greets that moment of noticing a wandering mind and escorts it back lovingly to this object of focus. I'm aware of the in breath. I'm aware of the out breath. Filling your awareness with this object of focus, maybe the breath or other focus that you're using. When the attention wanders, just begin again. You may offer a slight body scan, just noticing if any tension has crept back into the face, the shoulders, the belly. Yeah, just inviting some softness to the body, returning your attention to the breath or other focus. I'm aware of the in breath. I'm aware of the out breath. Simply letting our attention just surf the breath, becoming curious about breath. So we're not thinking about it, we're actually just feeling the direct experience of breathing. How do you know you're breathing? And in a moment, I'm going to shift to our compassion practice. And so I invite you to stay connected to the body with the breath or the experience of grounding, feeling your body in the chair. And you'll just simply follow the prompts. And I'll just start off with a little bit of self awareness. And so you might listen to this phrase and then repeat it to yourself in your own mind after I say it. For whatever I'm feeling right now, may I hold this with kindness. For whatever I'm feeling right now, may I hold this with kindness. For whatever I'm feeling right now, may I hold this with awareness and compassion. For whatever I'm feeling right now, may I hold this with kindness, awareness, and compassion. And now we'll use some phrases that you can repeat in your own mind. And if it doesn't feel right to you based on your experience, just let the words wash over you. May all those who have lost their homes be safe and secure while they transition to a new home life. May all those who have lost their homes be safe and secure while they transition to a new home life. May their hardships and difficulty pass with as much ease as possible. May their hardships and difficulty pass with as much ease as possible. May they be free of mental and physical suffering. May they be free of mental and physical suffering. And may all the people and animals in the affected areas of Los Angeles be safe and secure. May all the people and animals in these areas be safe and secure. This next one's a little bit longer. You can just let it wash over you. May all the firefighters, officials, leaders, and first responders who have taken on the responsibility of caring for us and caring for themselves and their own families, thousands of other people, may these people be safe and secure. May these people be safe and secure. May they feel the love and support and appreciation from their communities. May they feel the love, support, and appreciation from their communities. And then we can expand this compassion, this radiating metta, this super well wishing to all the people and all the living beings around the world who are suffering in difficult situations, holding them in your heart, Just imagining a radiating compassion from your heart that is boundless and refills itself immediately as you give it away, sending it out to all living beings around the world in difficult situations. May you be held in loving kindness. May you feel safe and at peace. May you be healthy in body, mind, and spirit. May you have enough of what you need. May you feel loved and cared for. And just imagining the power of these phrases just washing over us and them. Imagine it bringing comfort to people who are suffering. And now, if there's any phrase that you love to use, that you know and love, please offer that phrase to yourself in your own mind right now, whether it's for yourself or a loved one or a community. And then finally, for whatever I'm feeling right now, whatever it is, may I hold this with kindness and awareness and compassion. So, the idea here is that we want to stay connected to our feelings and our bodies and not bypass our own suffering and the suffering of others, but rather gently feel them so that we can metabolize these big emotions and big events and then skillfully move on when it's time. So we can skillfully move on when it's time. And so we're letting go of the compassion phrases and just shifting our awareness back to the breath just for a few breaths as we start to bring the meditation to a close, dropping our awareness back into the direct experience of the body, breathing. And in a moment, I'm going to ring the bell to end the meditation. And when you're ready, you might start to wiggle your fingers a little bit. Maybe drop your head from side to side, kind of waking up the body. If you need to take any little energizing breaths to kind of bring your awareness back, you're welcome to do that. And so we have just a few minutes. I definitely wanted to open it up for some feedback. I'm going to put a question in the chat, um, which is, when you notice that you're moving out of your window of tolerance, can you imagine using some of these group suggestions to come back to mental presence or the mindful self-compassion practice that we kind of reminded ourselves of, or this compassion practice, especially this upcoming week, right? Can you imagine noticing when you've come out of your window of tolerance and using any of these um, things that we just did? You can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand. We have a few minutes. absolutely. Thank you for these reminders. They've been revived. I do forget about them when I'm activated. Comforting and grounding. Good. Very timely. So yeah, the name of this talk was just tapping our inner resources. Yeah, it's just a reminder. We really do have a lot of what we need. We just kind of get activated and we forget, right? We just forget. So we're sharpening our tools in our toolbox, right? We can do things to quickly bring ourselves into mental presence. We can use mindful self-compassion, and we can hold compassion for other people, which helps us kind of metabolize the way we experience the suffering of others so we can be more resilient for them. Thanks for reiterating. It's easy to be mindful. It's difficult to remember to be mindful. Right. Yeah. I mean, that is really the trick. I mean, maybe even over this next week, I don't have it now, but I put a little sticker on the back of my phone that says WOT, window of tolerance. Yeah, just so I'm looking at it throughout the day. That's been really helpful to me. Or you could tie a string on your wrist just to simply notice over this next week when we're kind of slipping out. So thank you all so much for joining. It was really a pleasure to be with you all today. And I know Andy just put in the chat the link. I know Enrique is next week, and then the following week is Lori Cousins, who is also going to offer, I believe she's going to do a more deep dive on self-compassion, which is kind of what we did a highlight on. She'll do a deeper dive with that, which is really great. So thank you for your time today. Hopefully we'll see you next Wednesday. Be well, and thank you for being part of the Big Bear Retreat Center Sangha community. We're here for you. We're here for each other, and we can do this. We can do this. Yeah.
So much, Madelyne. Yeah, thank you everybody for coming and sending love and praying for safety for all of your loved ones all over the world.
Yeah.
Take care. See you next. Bye, everyone.
Well, have a beautiful